Everyday Petrolhead. I'm your host, Terrence Henderson, and you join me on this sunny day in Cali. And myself and the mini mechanic are checking out some new car parts. So what do we have? We have some suspension parts for the X5. I've been tired of dealing with the air suspension, so this is a coil conversion kit for the front. But I decided to do the front first, and in another week or so, I will do the rears. So let's open this up, and you can take a look at it real quick. What do you see, baby?
I see
That. And what is this? This is a coil spring conversion kit. So this is one of the sides. I will have to figure out which one it is because it's not labeled. And we will check this out a little bit later on as I put it in. Now, before I do the actual install, first I need to change some things. I need to log into my old Windows 7 machine, and then I need to launch IMPA. Now, the car is actually in, I guess you could say accessory mode, like the ignition's turned. So all the computers are actually talking to my laptop. Under Activate, I go to Handset, and I'm going to air down the front suspension. If I don't do this, I can have problems when I try to release it. So you see the bags for the front left and the front right are full. I'm gonna go ahead and air them down. And you see the car dropping. I'm gonna let this go for a little while and I'll get back to you guys. All right, that's pretty much as low as I'm gonna let it go for now. But the good thing about this is this gets it so far down that it's practically on the bump stop for the shocks, and there's like no room for me to put my hand onto here. Now, the reason why I did that is because I don't want the bags to explode when I'm trying to air it out. There's still gonna be a little bit of pressure in there, and I'll release that at the valve, but that's the start of all of this. Stay tuned. All right, so if you look, you could still see the bag is still inflated, still has some air in there. But what I'm looking for tonight's work is way up here, that. Yeah, I'm gonna release that valve tonight and then take the line down, and I need to plug that line. The goal is to put a screw in it with some gasket maker and seal it so that it doesn't leak. And it shouldn't be a problem to do this, but the goal is to trick the system into thinking that the front is fine based on what the ride height sensor is saying, and the car telling itself it's leveled with the new shocks, and then take the bag out tomorrow. After fighting with it for so long, well, not really long, it was more like 15 minutes. And since it's late and I didn't really feel like going too deep into this, I realized, you know what? I need to just go ahead and stop fighting and pull the whole thing out. So now the next step is for me to release that valve. Now, I'm not doing a step-by-step, mainly because there's a YouTuber named Beamer Z. He already did a really good write-up. I'm gonna put his link in the description, but I'm just more so going over the facts of why this was done. Why I just had to do it, because honestly, I'm just getting tired of constantly playing with, IMPA and trying to change the settings. I don't have a reliable copy of ISTA-D, and I'm not paying some guy some crazy amount of money just for, taking the code out, and then all of a sudden the bag goes bad anyway, and I have to replace the bag, and here goes another $500. Like, screw that. Replace the thing, call it a day. So we're gonna go ahead and, instead of plugging the line and waiting till morning, I'm gonna do the full repair, put the new one in, and then I'm gonna plug the line and then let it sit till morning before I do anything else. This is what I need to block up. What I'm gonna end up doing is, you see that little hole? I'm gonna put some sealant in there, and then I'm gonna screw in a screw about roughly ½ an inch in, and then I'm gonna seal it all the way up. That way the air line is completely blocked, because let's be honest, I'm gonna drive it till it dies. So once I plug up the hole, what ends up happening is we're not gonna have to worry about the air leaking out that could be leaking from the rear. Now, I know there is a, I guess you could say like a reservoir in the front, but it gets the air from the back. And if that thing in the front decides to open, it lets the air out of the air shocks in the back. And the back hasn't dropped down since I've opened this. So that means that right now the actuator is closed and it's not letting the air bleed out. So that's a good thing, but I need to stop it permanently so that it doesn't leak at all. And there's the bag out, and this is the shock that's going in. I just wanted to put them side by side so you guys can take a look at it. And it's got a little bit more travel, but also I did compress the bag just a little bit. But the car is probably gonna sit up more, which is good. I know everybody likes the low ride and all that good stuff. I don't really like that. I like the car to sit at a decent level. And it hasn't really done that since I bought it. So we'll see what it looks like once the spring settles and compress, but I think this is going to be a vast improvement. All right, so now it is reassembled. The shock is in, and next is dealing with that line. Yeah, you. That is my next thing to do. I have to do that tonight. I think I'm gonna do this side and stop tonight, and then I'm gonna do the other side tomorrow because it's already getting kind of late and I'm kind of tired. And I don't plan on driving this car for like another day. So that should give it more than enough time for the stuff I'm gonna put inside of here to cure, plus the screw going in to hold it in place. And the top bolts, you're not supposed to tighten until the car is under load because you wanna make sure that it goes all the way in properly. So I put on some ultra black gasket maker. I put it on the inside of the tube, then I put a screw in the middle, and then I put some around it. And this usually takes a couple of hours to seal. And I'm gonna let it sit overnight. Just gonna let it hang and sit overnight, let it dry in place. And then I'm gonna do the other side tomorrow morning. It's just so late and I'm tired. And honestly, I do need to get some rest. But this should work because the screw it has deep grooves, so it's really dug into the plastic of the hose at the end. And the gasket maker is going to be a perfect seal so that no air leaks out of this regardless. This is basically a done line at this point. And I'm gonna have to do the same thing on the other side, and the following day we'll drive the car and we'll see how it goes. But honestly, this is not gonna leak after this. And the air suspension, although it was pretty comfortable, this is just better. I'm not a big fan of air shocks. I know a lot of new cars come with them, so it's kind of an unavoidable thing, but you know, it is what it is. Or I should say new luxury cars tend to come with it, so it's a pretty unavoidable thing. The other side, I might film, I might not film, I haven't decided yet, just because it is a mess on the other side because of the oil leak. But you pretty much get the main idea of this. So once we get this wheel down on the ground, we'll take a look at it and we'll go from there. All right, so it's done on this side. I think I'm going to call it a night right here. We'll pick this up tomorrow. We'll do the other side. It's sitting high because one, the other side's still technically in the air. And two, the spring needs to settle, which is not gonna happen tonight because the other side's still in the air. So there's that. Also, once we know for sure that it's completely on the ground, then I can check the height of the bolts because the original bolts are actually pretty deep. So the nut goes on further as they are on that side. But on this side, with the new one, it's really shallow. So it's not a very long bolt. So I may not necessarily have to tighten and torque it like crazy. I don't want to break it because that's not safe. So we will check this in the morning. Okay, the bolts are fixed. I solved the mystery. It was called user error. I didn't notice in my late night trying to get it done as fast as possible. This is why you need to take your time, that the new bolts were sitting on the new nuts were actually sitting on the bolt already, and I put the old ones on top. And that's why they didn't match. So over there, it's fine. And now this one is officially okay. So yeah, finally. This is also going to be helpful once the spring settles because I've been having issues where the outside of the front tires have been wearing and the insides of the back tires are wearing because of all sorts of suspension problems. So once I know where it rests, then we go to this tire shop and replace the tires. All right, it's day 2. I got the left side out, and this is the side that has the oil leak from the engine, from the valve cover. And this one was a replaced Arno strut that, you know, again, I don't know if it was the issue or not, but I think the other side was more problematic than this one. But I'm putting in the new shock now, and we'll go from there. Checking on this side this morning, and it is pretty sealed on this airline. So like I said, I put some gasket maker on it on the inside of the tube. I had to shove some in there, and then I put the screw in. It's about a 1/2 inch into the line, and then I sealed the other end of it so that this basically should not come out under any circumstances. And the type of screw I used had some grooves on it, so it's gonna be work for it to push this out. It's not coming out. Other than that, I just have to tuck the line away, out of the way. There we go. And for the most part, this is done. I'm going to attempt to do this with one hand since I'm holding my youngest. But as you can see, when I check the status and we go under analog, after installing the springs and check some calibrations, it is thinking the car is leveled, which is great. However, it still has the self-leveling suspension inactive. And the main reason why I'm not turning that off just yet is because I want to make sure that the seals cure on the plugs that I put in to both front hoses. So I'm going to let it sit for another day, probably just tonight. I'm going to let it sit till tomorrow morning, and then I will check it again. But right now the car thinks it's completely leveled, and I'm fine with that. So as I always tell you guys, don't be afraid to tackle something. Google everything, see what's possible. Work on the things you know how to work on and you can work on. Don't push yourself past the limits. If you can't do something, it's okay to go to the mechanic because obviously they are professionals. If you have the know-how and the ability to do so and the time, feel free to do it. Right now, we're all in a pandemic and locked down, and there's no reason we can't put the time into things like this that have just been sitting. So for me, I needed to do this. I was getting tired of dealing with the computer and having to constantly make adjustments and fiddle and fiddle and fiddle. It was just frustrating. So it's gone. I'll let you guys know over the next couple of videos, you know, how the drive goes, because I still have to let it settle and get comfortable with itself. The spring, that is, because even though when you put it down, it's still sitting pretty high, but after a while it settles into place. If you like what I've been talking about, like, share, and subscribe, and join me next time on this sweaty garage workout with your everyday petrolhead. Thanks.